The morning of my wedding felt like a dream. Sunlight poured through the windows of the bridal suite as my bridesmaids buzzed around me, fixing my dress and touching up my makeup. Everyone kept saying the same thing. "You look so happy." And I was. After 3 years together, I was finally marrying Ethan, the man I believed was my soulmate. He was charming, successful, attentive, and somehow managed to make everyone love him. My parents adored him. My friends trusted him. Even strangers seemed drawn to him. Everything about our relationship looked perfect, at least from the outside. As I stared at myself in the mirror, I remembered our first date. The way he made me laugh. The late-night phone calls. The surprise vacations. The proposal on the beach 6 months ago. I thought I knew everything about him. I couldn't have been more wrong. The ceremony venue was breathtaking. Nearly 300 guests filled the grand ballroom overlooking the ocean. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above us, while a string quartet played softly in the background. Everyone was there. Family, friends, business partners, even guests who had flown across the country to celebrate our special day. The atmosphere was electric. And yet, something felt off. I couldn't explain it. Maybe it was wedding nerves. Maybe it was the overwhelming pressure. Or maybe it was my intuition trying desperately to warn me. Just before the ceremony began, my maid of honor, Jessica, rushed into my dressing room. She looked pale, almost frightened. "Emma," she said quietly. My heart skipped. "What happened?" She hesitated. For a moment, I thought someone had been injured. Instead, she pulled out her phone. "You need to see this." I laughed nervously. "Jessica, if this is another embarrassing college photo, I swear." "It's not." Her expression stopped me cold. Slowly, she handed me the. My hands trembled as I stared at Jessica's phone. The screenshot showed Ethan sitting at a restaurant table with a woman I had never seen before. They weren't simply having dinner. They were holding hands. His gaze toward her wasn't friendly. It wasn't professional. It was intimate. The timestamp showed the photo had been taken just 3 nights ago. 3 nights before our wedding. "No," I whispered. "This has to be fake." Jessica nodded slowly. "That's exactly what I thought." I zoomed in on the image. The restaurant was familiar. Very familiar. It was the same restaurant Ethan claimed he had visited with business clients that evening. I remembered because I had called him that night. He'd told me he was exhausted. Too busy to talk. Now my stomach twisted as I realized who he had really been spending time with. Before I could process it, another message arrived. The sender was still anonymous. Jessica and I exchanged nervous glances. Then I opened it. The text contained only 6 words. "Check his email. Search Victoria." Victoria. The woman's name. Neither of us recognized it. "What do we do?" Jessica asked. I looked at the clock. 22 minutes until the ceremony. The wedding coordinator was already knocking outside the room. Guests were seated. Musicians were ready. Everyone expected me to walk down that aisle. Instead, I grabbed my phone. A few months earlier, Ethan had logged into his email account on my laptop while planning our honeymoon. The account had remained connected. At the time, it seemed harmless. Now it felt like fate. Within seconds, I was inside. My heart pounded as I typed the name. Victoria. Dozens of emails appeared. Dozens. My blood ran cold. The messages stretched back nearly 11 months. 11 months. Almost an entire year. While we were planning our future. While we were shopping for wedding venues. While we were sending invitati. Slowly, she handed me the phone. A message was open. No name. No profile picture. Just a screenshot. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then my stomach dropped. The screenshot showed Ethan. My Ethan. And another woman. The date on the message was from just 3 nights ago. My hands started shaking. "No." Jessica swallowed hard. I didn't know if it was real. I stared at the screen. Maybe it was fake. Maybe someone was trying to ruin our wedding. Maybe there was a misunderstanding. But then I saw something impossible to ignore. A photo. One that had never been posted online. A photo that could only have come from Ethan himself. Suddenly, the room felt smaller. The air felt heavier. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. "What is this?" I whispered. Jessica sat beside me. "I think someone wants you to know something before it's too late." I looked toward the ballroom where hundreds of guests waited for the ceremony to begin. The music had started. People were taking their seats. And somewhere out there, Ethan was standing at the altar, smiling, waiting for me. What he didn't know was that within the next hour, I would uncover a secret so shocking that it would destroy everything. And before the night was over, 300 guests would witness the truth. I clicked on the email. For a second, I honestly wished I hadn't. Because once I read those words, there was no going back. The email was from Ethan to Victoria, sent less than 24 hours before our wedding. The subject line read, "After she signs the prenup." My stomach dropped. I opened it. And there it was. The truth. Raw, ugly, and absolutely brutal. Once Emma signs everything, we're set. She'll never know what's coming. The investments, the properties, all of it stays protected. Just play along a little longer. I blinked. Then read it again. And again. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This wasn't just some guy having cold feet. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This wasn't even just cheating. The dude had been running a whole scam. Jessica grabbed the phone. What the heck? I kept scrolling. The next line hit even harder. "Honestly, she's so trusting it's almost too easy." That one hurt. Not because it broke my heart. Because it made me feel stupid. 3 years. 3 freaking years. And apparently I was just some clueless girl helping fund his future. Jessica looked ready to throw the phone through the wall. "Emma, this guy is trash." "No," I said quietly. "Trash gets taken out." My voice surprised even me. I wasn't crying anymore. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't heartbroken. I was mad. The kind of mad that makes you calm. The dangerous kind. Outside the room, someone knocked again. 5 minutes until lineup. The wedding coordinator sounded stressed. Little did she know. A whole Category 5 hurricane was about to hit this wedding. Jessica sat beside me. "So, what are you gonna do?" For a moment, I considered walking away. Just disappearing. Leaving Ethan standing alone at the altar. That would have hurt him. But not enough. No. If I left quietly, he'd control the story. He'd tell everyone I got scared. He'd play the victim. People would feel sorry for him. Absolutely not. Then I looked around the room. 300 guests. Family. Friends. Business associates. People who thought Ethan was some stand-up guy. The perfect fiancé. The perfect future husband. The perfect man. I laughed. A short, cold laugh. Because in less than an hour, every single one of them was about to meet the real Ethan. An idea started forming in my head. Crazy? Maybe. Petty? Definitely. Deserved? 100%. I opened my laptop. Jessica immediately caught on. "Oh my God." I smiled. For the first time all day. "Oh, we're not canceling this wedding." Her jaw dropped. "We're not." "Nope." I began downloading every email, every photo, every receipt, every piece of evidence. I organized everything into one folder. Then another idea hit me. A much better idea. The ballroom had giant projector screens. The same screens we planned to use for wedding photos during the reception. I stared at them through the venue map. Then I stared at the folder. Then I looked at Jessica. She started grinning. "No way." "Oh yeah, you're savage." "Darn right." For the next few minutes, we worked fast. Really fast. By the time someone came to escort me to the ceremony entrance, my plan was ready. The evidence was backed up. The files were uploaded. And one very important person had agreed to help me. The DJ. As I stood behind the ballroom doors, wedding music filling the air, my father walked up beside me. He smiled proudly. "You ready, sweetheart?" I looked toward the altar. Toward Ethan. Toward the biggest liar I'd ever known. And I smiled back. More than ready. Because what Ethan thought was the happiest day of his life was about to become the most embarrassing moment he'd ever experienced. And he had absolutely no clue what was coming. The ballroom doors swung open. Instantly, all 300 guests turned to look at me. The string quartet played softly. People smiled. Some wiped away tears. Others pulled out their phones to record the moment. To everyone else, it looked like a fairy tale wedding. But I knew the truth. And in a few minutes, everybody else would too. I took my father's arm and started walking down the aisle. Slowly. Gracefully. Like nothing was wrong. Inside, though, my heart was pounding. Not because I was nervous. Because I was about to blow up the biggest lie of my life. At the altar, Ethan stood there in his custom tuxedo, flashing that same charming smile that had fooled me for 3 years. When our eyes met, he winked. Actually winked. Like everything was going according to plan. Like he hadn't spent the last year sneaking around behind my back. Like he hadn't called me too trusting. Like he hadn't planned an entire future with another woman while pretending to build one with me. For a split second, I wondered how many lies a person could tell before they stopped recognizing themselves. Apparently Ethan had found out. I reached the altar. My father kissed my cheek. "Love you, kiddo. Love you too." Then he returned to his seat. The officiant smiled warmly. "We are gathered here today to celebrate the union of Ethan and Emma." The guests listened attentively. Everything seemed normal. Exactly how I wanted it. The more normal things looked now, the bigger the shock would be later. As the ceremony continued, Ethan squeezed my hand. "You look beautiful," he whispered. I almost laughed. The audacity was unreal. "Thanks," I replied. A few minutes later, the officiant reached the vows. The room became completely silent. This was it. The moment everyone had been waiting for. Ethan went first. Of course he did. He unfolded a piece of paper and started reading. "The performance was Oscar-worthy. I promise to love you through every challenge." People smiled. "I promise to honor and respect you." My maid of honor nearly rolled her eyes. "I promise that honesty will always be the foundation of our marriage." That one almost took me out. Honesty? Seriously? I had to bite the inside of my cheek to stop myself from laughing. Guests looked emotional. Some were crying. Meanwhile, I knew the guy talking had a secret apartment, a secret girlfriend, and enough lies to fill a novel. When he finished, the crowd applauded. Ethan looked proud of himself. Like he'd just delivered the speech of a lifetime. Then the officiant turned to me. "Emma, would you like to share your vows?" I smiled. "Oh, absolutely." I reached into my bouquet. Not for vows. For a small remote. Jessica had hidden it there earlier. Nobody noticed. Not Ethan. Not the guests. Nobody. I held it in my hand. "Ready." The officiant stepped aside. The room fell silent again. Every eye was on me. I took a deep breath. Then I looked directly at Ethan. His smile never faded. "Not yet. I spent weeks writing my vows," I began. The guests smiled. I wanted them to be honest. A few people nodded. I wanted them to reflect who we really are. Ethan's expression shifted slightly. Just slightly. Maybe he sensed something. Maybe he finally realized I wasn't reading from a piece of paper. I continued. "Then this morning, I learned something interesting." The room got quieter. I learned that the person standing in front of me isn't who he claims to be. Now people were exchanging confused looks. Ethan's smile disappeared. "What are you doing?" he whispered. I ignored him. Instead, I raised the remote and pressed the button. Behind us, the giant projector screen flickered to life. At first, nobody understood what they were seeing. Then the first photo appeared. Ethan, holding hands with Victoria. The room exploded with gasps. And that was only the beginning. Because the next image was about to reveal something even worse, something that would leave the entire ballroom speechless. The second that photo appeared on the giant screen, the entire ballroom froze. Not a single person moved. Not a single person spoke. 300 guests stared at the image behind us. Ethan and Victoria. Holding hands. Looking very much like a couple. The silence lasted maybe 2 seconds. Then all hell broke loose. Gasps echoed across the room. People started whispering. Heads turned toward Ethan. Then back toward the screen. Then back toward Ethan again. "What is that? No way. Is that real? Oh my God." The whispers spread through the crowd like wildfire. I looked at Ethan. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked genuinely scared. Not nervous. Not uncomfortable. Scared. His face had gone completely pale. "Emma," he hissed. "Turn that off." I smiled. "No." Another image appeared. This time it was a screenshot of text messages. Messages between Ethan and Victoria. The giant screen made every word impossible to miss. "I can't wait until the wedding is over. Then we can finally be together." The crowd gasped again. Someone in the front row actually stood up. An older woman covered her mouth in shock. Meanwhile, Ethan looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him. "These aren't real," he said quickly. His voice was shaky. "Someone made this up." "Oh," I said. "Really?" I clicked the remote again. A hotel reservation appeared. Then another. Then another. Different dates. Different cities. All booked under Ethan's name. All involving Victoria. The crowd got louder. People weren't whispering anymore. Now they were talking openly. His friends looked stunned. His coworkers looked uncomfortable. His parents looked completely confused. Then I heard a voice from the audience. "Ethan, tell me that's not true." It was his mother. The look on her face almost made me feel bad. Almost. Ethan turned toward her. "Mom, she's twisting things." "Am I?" I asked. Then I pressed the button again. The lease agreement appeared. Huge. Impossible to miss. Signed 7 months ago. By Ethan. And Victoria. The room exploded. People were standing now. Some guests pulled out their phones. Others stared in disbelief. One guy literally said, "Bro is cooked." Honestly, he wasn't wrong. Ethan lunged toward me. "Stop this right now." Several guests stepped forward immediately. My brother was one of them. "Take one more step toward her," he warned, "and we're gonna have a different problem." Ethan stopped. The confidence he'd carried all day was completely gone. Now he looked desperate. Sweaty. Panicked. Cornered. Then came the knockout punch. The email. The one that changed everything. The screen displayed the message. The entire ballroom read it together. "Once Emma signs everything, we're set. She'll never know what's coming." A collective gasp swept through the room. Then the next line appeared. "Honestly, she's so trusting it's almost too easy." The reaction was instant. People booed. Others shook their heads. Several guests looked disgusted. Even Ethan's own best man stepped away from him. Like he didn't want to be associated with him anymore. And then something happened that Ethan definitely wasn't expecting. A woman stood up near the back of the ballroom. I recognized her immediately. Victoria. She had actually come to the wedding. My jaw dropped. Jessica's jaw dropped. Pretty much everyone's jaw dropped. Victoria looked furious. Absolutely furious. She marched down the aisle, heels clicking against the floor. Straight toward Ethan. The room watched in complete silence. Ethan's eyes widened. "Victoria, wait." Slap. The sound echoed through the ballroom. 300 people witnessed it. Nobody stopped her. Nobody even tried. Victoria pointed directly at him. "You told me she knew everything." The entire room erupted. "What?" "No freaking way. Are you serious?" I stared at Ethan. Because in that moment, I realized something. Victoria wasn't his partner in the scam. She'd been lied to too. And judging by the look on Ethan's face, there was still one more secret he was desperately trying to keep hidden. A secret that was about to destroy whatever was left of his life. After Victoria slapped Ethan, the ballroom erupted into chaos. Guests were talking over each other. Some were recording. Others were trying to figure out what was happening. And right in the middle of it all stood Ethan. The man who had spent years controlling every narrative. The man who always had an answer. The man who thought he could outsmart everyone. For the first time in his life, he had nowhere to run. "Victoria," he said nervously, "please let me explain." She laughed. Not a happy laugh. The kind of laugh people make when they're completely done with someone's nonsense. "Explain what?" she snapped. "The part where you told me Emma knew about us?" The crowd went silent. "You said you two were only getting married for business reasons." More gasps. "You told me the relationship was basically over." Ethan looked like he was about to pass out. Victoria wasn't finished. You told me she only cared about money. I watched Ethan's face fall apart. Every lie he'd told was crashing into every other lie. And now there were 300 witnesses. Then Victoria reached into her purse. I wasn't even going to come today. She held up her phone. But last night, I found out the truth. The ballroom was dead quiet. You weren't just lying to Emma. She looked directly at him. You were lying to me too. Ethan's shoulders dropped. Like he already knew what was coming. Victoria turned her phone around. I hired a private investigator. The room exploded again. A private investigator? Nobody saw that coming. She continued. Want to know what I found out? Ethan closed his eyes. Almost like he was praying. Bad idea. Because the next sentence finished him. There wasn't just Emma. The crowd gasped. There wasn't just me. She shook her head. There were 3 other women. Complete silence. Then, no way. What? You're kidding. People couldn't believe it. Neither could I. I thought I'd uncovered the whole story. Turns out I had only found part of it. Victoria showed screenshots. Photos. Messages. Evidence. More lies. More affairs. More manipulation. More victims. At this point, Ethan wasn't just exposed. He was completely destroyed. His best man walked away. Several friends left. Business associates quietly headed for the exits. Even his own father looked disgusted. Then came the moment that hit hardest. Ethan's mother stood up. Tears filled her eyes. She looked at her son and slowly shook her head. I didn't raise you to become this. Ouch! That one landed. Ethan looked around the room. No supporters. No allies. No one defending him. Just disappointed faces. Angry faces. Faces that finally saw who he really was. 300 people. Not celebrating a marriage. Celebrating the truth. Celebrating courage. Celebrating the fact that sometimes walking away is the strongest thing you can do. A month later, I received messages from guests who had attended the wedding. Most of them said the same thing. They felt bad for what happened. But they were glad I found out before it was too late. And they were right. Because losing a wedding is painful. Losing years hurts. But spending the rest of your life with the wrong person? That's a much bigger tragedy. As for Ethan, last I heard, Victoria left him. The other women did too. His reputation never fully recovered. And honestly, that wasn't my concern anymore. My story wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. And on the day that was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, I learned something important. Sometimes the biggest blessing comes disguised as the worst heartbreak. And sometimes, the best wedding gift you can receive is discovering the truth before saying I do.